never outrun your identity. That's why you start with yourself. You build the person before you build the empire. You sharpen the mind before you scale the plan. You develop the soul before you demand the reward. You don't wait to feel worthy. You train yourself to be worthy. You invest in knowledge. You invest in skills. You invest in mindset, in mentorship, in mastery, not because you're broken, but because you've decided to rise. Because you refuse to be the same person in 5 years. You refuse to recycle the same goals, the same excuses, the same stagnation year after year, hoping that something external will change what you haven't changed internally. You don't gamble on luck. You bet on growth, because growth is never an accident. It's a decision you make when no one's watching, a commitment you renew when everyone else is sleeping, and it begins in your mindset. The mind is the soil, and every investment you plant there grows into action or apathy. If your thoughts are poor, every dollar you earn will slip through your hands. If your thoughts are rich, you could lose everything and rebuild it 10 times faster because the wealth wasn't in your bank account, it was in your blueprint. You can't scale a weak mind. You can't win with a scarcity spirit. You can't build an abundant life with survival programming. So the first investment is mental. You upgrade your thinking. You rewire your beliefs. You eliminate toxic scripts. I'm not good enough. People like me don't win. Success is for others. No, you confront those lies with new language. I am capable. I am becoming. I am building. You speak differently to yourself, not with delusion, but with direction. Because the most powerful investment is not positive thinking. It is accurate programming. Programming that says, I am responsible. I am ready. I am relentless. That mindset fuels the next investment. Skills. Because belief without ability is fantasy. Dreams without skill are distractions. You must become the person your future demands. Read more. Learn faster. Ask better questions. Practice until excellence is your instinct. Skill is the currency of the marketplace. And the marketplace does not pay you for what you know, it pays you for what you can do. And what you can do consistently, under pressure, in silence, without supervision, that's what determines your value. So invest in mastery, not dabbling, not knowing a little bit about a lot, but going deep, building edges, owning your craft so completely that you no longer compete, you separate. Because in a world of surface, mastery is magnetic. And it starts with one choice: to stop spending time and start investing it. To stop chasing convenience and start building capacity. That capacity leads you to invest in your discipline, your habits, your structure, your systems. Because the person who invests in themselves does not depend on motivation. They depend on mechanics. They do not rise when it's easy. They rise because it's who they are. Discipline is the dividend of self-respect. You invest in how you move, how you plan, how you protect your energy, how you show up for the promises you've made to yourself. Because if you can't trust your own word, why should the world? And when you build that trust, when you start stacking days of consistency, no matter how small, you begin to feel something the average will never understand. Compounding confidence. That compounding confidence becomes your superpower. Not arrogance, not noise, but a deep, unshakable certainty that says, I do what I say I'll do. That's wealth. That's leverage. That's power. You can't fake. Because now, every small win reinforces your identity. Every rep is a vote for the future you. Every act of discipline becomes a seed, and those seeds compound. Until one day, the person you used to dream of becoming is you. That's what happens when you invest in yourself. You become the dividend, you become the return, you become the result. And once that confidence takes root, vision expands. Not because you saw something new, but because you became someone new. You no longer look at life through the lens of limits. You see potential. You see opportunity where others see obstacles. You see options where others freeze. Vision isn't some vague wish. Vision is when you become crystal clear on what you're building and why. And the moment you get clear on the why, the how starts to move. Vision makes strategy magnetic. It pulls you toward purpose. It makes you dangerous to your old self. Because when you live with vision, you don't need to escape. You embody. You don't need to prove. You produce. You don't seek applause. You align. And that alignment becomes purpose. Not the kind you find once in a journal. The kind you feel in your bones. The kind that wakes you up early. Not because you have to, but because you get to. You stop working for status. You start working from service. You don't count hours. You count impact. And that shift, that soul deep conviction that your work matters is the most valuable investment you'll ever make. Because purpose gives your habits meaning. Purpose makes discipline sustainable. Purpose turns every hard moment into a meaningful one. And when you live on purpose, gratitude isn't an emotion. It's your edge. Gratitude becomes fuel. You're not grateful just when things are good. You're grateful in the grind. You're grateful in the building. You're grateful in the silence because you know silence means space and space means scaling. You thank the process before the product shows up. You thank the challenge for what it's teaching you. You thank the delay for what it's developing in you. That kind of gratitude rewires your nervous system. It puts you in control of your chemistry. It gives you strength when others would break. And that's what separates the invested from the exhausted. The exhausted wait for results to feel better. The invested feel better because they're becoming better. They're not waiting for the breakthrough. They're becoming the person who doesn't need the breakthrough to live well. Because when you invest in yourself, you realize you were the miracle all along. You were the miracle all along, not something to be found, but something to be forged. Forged in fire, forged in discipline, forged in days where no one applauded and no one noticed, but you showed up anyway. Because resilience isn't just bouncing back. Resilience is staying unshaken when life pushes you. It's rising slower, stronger, quieter. It's building a mind so prepared, a spirit so rooted, that failure becomes friction, not finality. When you invest in yourself, you don't fear failure, you absorb it. You metabolize it into clarity. You digest it into wisdom. You extract the lesson, burn the excuse, and return to the work sharper, meaner, more precise. And when you've done that long enough, you stop hoping for easy. You prepare for pressure. You stop praying for a smooth road. You become the kind of person who doesn't need one. That's the return of self-investment. Resilience with rhythm. And that rhythm, that's your adaptability. Your ability to shift without losing self. Your ability to flex without folding. Because in a world that's always changing, you must be able to rebuild yourself without asking permission. The old system breaks, you build a better one. The rules shift, you shift faster. The season dries up, you dig a well. That's the kind of person you become when you've invested in yourself, not just with time and books, but with being. You've studied your nature. You've tracked your patterns. You've built your own recovery system so your bounce back becomes quicker than your breakdown. You don't crash. You correct. And every correction compounds into a character that's agile, sharp, and dangerous to the status quo. Because the fully invested person doesn't just adapt, they ascend. And they keep ascending because they are always learning. They are obsessed with refinement. They don't protect their pride. They pursue precision. They devour feedback. They study their flaws. They hunt friction not to avoid it, but to master it. Because mastery isn't talent, it's teachability. The ability to stay humble enough to admit you don't know it all and hungry enough to do something about it. That's the posture of the person who will outlast everyone else in the room. Not the loudest, not the smartest, the most invested. Invested in learning, invested in growth, invested in evolution. And that evolution, it's eternal. Because now you're no longer chasing a version of yourself. You are becoming. You are carving. You are rising without rush, building without burnout, and giving without depletion because the source of your strength isn't external anymore. It's you. The system you've built, the mindset you've forged, the skill you've sharpened, the character you've crafted. And that is why, no matter how the world shifts, no matter what economy, what title, what relationship, you remain unshaken because you made the most unbreakable investment of all. You invested in the one thing that always pays off. You invested in you. And the payoff? It's not just the money. It's not just the status. It's not even the applause. The real payoff is peace. The kind of peace that only comes when you know not guess, not hope, but know that you are building something real. That every breath has purpose. That every step has weight. That every struggle has meaning because you've trained your mind to see the opportunity in every obstacle. The payoff is power. Not the kind of power that dominates others, the kind that masters yourself. The power to walk away from what no longer aligns. The power to say no without guilt and yes without fear. The power to move when others freeze. To execute when others talk. To endure when others fold. The payoff is identity. The moment you look in the mirror and recognize the version of you you've been chasing your whole life. Not by chance. Not by luck. By work. By intention. By sacred commitment to growth, to truth, to excellence. Because this journey, this path of self-investment, was never about achieving some perfect version of you. It was about becoming the kind of person who never stops growing. And when you become that person, you don't fear setbacks. You outgrow them. You don't fear change. You invite it. You don't fear challenge. You eat it. Because the version of you who invests in themselves doesn't wait for permission, approval, or perfect conditions. They build regardless. They rise consistently. They execute relentlessly. And they give abundantly because they're not trying to protect their worth. They know their worth. That is the ultimate ROI. Not what you get, but who you become. You become the leader, the builder, the protector of your own potential. You become the one people turn to when the room shakes. You become the one who doesn't flinch. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. You made the decision to stop watching others rise and to start investing in the only asset that can change everything. You, your mind, your habits, your purpose, your system, your identity, and that decision changed everything.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम अच्छा जी कॉम्प्रो सिस्टम पर इस वक्त एक बहुत ही यूनिक तरह का लैपटॉप स्टैंड इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहे हैं जो कि विद मोबाइल होल्डर आता है इस वक्त